Are you listening? Damn.
So we're here tonight. We're actually breaking down the card we've all been waiting for, April 27th, Three River Throwdown 15, main event, Austin Heidlich versus Kalen Hall. Quick breakdown of the card. Of course, we got the main event. We got the only other pro fight on the card, Ben Ross versus Dino Sirocco. 3 amateur title fights. First off with number 1 ranked Felipe Martinez at 145. He's fighting number 7 Rodney Alexander. At 155, we got number 3 ranked Garrett Carlson fighting Bobby Oldenburg. And then at 115, Jordan Casey versus Caitlin Geisen. And then we got Nick Johnson versus Thomas Vang. Number 2, Josh Fleck versus JT Schultz. Nikki Shade versus Mandy Hedberg. Wesley Schultz versus Jake Rampert. Giovanni Alvarado, who's number 8, versus Jordan Kays' husband, Nick Kays. Sam Brewer versus Josh Moser. Anthony Kronvik versus John Jones. Not that John Jones. Scott Stino versus Gabby Olson. And then there's a couple kickboxing matches on the card, too, with notable fighters, Zach Burroughs-Nash versus Saul Stevens. And then the number 1 ranked 125-pounder, Tyus White, is fighting Javier Moreno. Breaking down a couple fights here. Damian, why don't you lead us off with the main event a little bit?
You said the main event?
Yeah.
I wanted to start off with Josh Fleck's fight.
Well,
I can't pronounce his opponent's last name, but it's JT. Jordan is his real name, but JT is what he goes by. I don't know. From what I've seen from Josh, the way that I see him going in there is his wrestling he's definitely going to be able to dominate with his wrestling. I believe his opponent, I believe, has a wrestling background as well, but Josh has just been steamrolling his opponents lately. You know, he's just been running through them, been able to dominate. And in his last fight in Austin, I was actually there. He was I seen him start to experiment a little bit, you know, like he's starting to open up his game. I think he's starting to find his groove a little bit better, and he's going to really show that in this fight. Like he opened up his last fight with 4 head kicks and leg kicks. And then he ends up getting the takedown. He wins by submission, you know. His opponent is a very good boxer. You know, I've seen him throw his hands. He relies on his hands a lot, even though I think he does have a wrestling background. But I don't know who he's working with, but his hands are really crisp and he has a lot of power. I mean, and he's a chiseled guy, you know. This is going to be a tough fight for Josh, but I do expect him to go out there and win, just from what I've seen from him. And his opponent is going to be a tough test because he's going to make him earn this victory. It's not going to be easy, you know, and it could be because it's fucking Josh Fleck. So.
No, JT has really good hands. I was able to see that in a couple videos leading up to the fight here. And he has natural power. It's not something to where he forces the shots. When he hits guys naturally, they feel it. Yeah. But in the big but is you mentioned Josh Fleck. Like I said, he's number 2 for a reason, and he's only a couple fights in. He's a natural athlete. And I think as far as grappling goes, there's a different level in this fight between the two of them. And I feel like if he wants to keep it on the fight, it can turn into a very fun, interesting scrap. But I think if he brings it to the ground and uses his grappling here, I think that's the quickest way to victory for him.
Yeah. Should we move on to the main card?
Yeah. Let's go straight into the first of the title fights here. We got Caitlin Geisen versus Jordan Kamikaze at 115. This is a fun fight. Jordan is, in my opinion, I know Trash Talk hasn't ranked.
Is this 115 or 125?
I think it's one.
It might be. I think it's 25 sounds right to me.
125. You're correct.
125.
So I think I wrote down the wrong notes here, but I just double checked. So thanks for correcting me on that, Jay. But Jordan, we haven't ranked women yet as far as Trash Talk goes. That's something I've been working on. But she's up there. She's bad, man. She knocks gals out. She hits very hard. She trains at one of the best gyms in the state at Spartan, and I'm always excited to see her fight because of the progress she makes every time.
When I was looking at Tapology, they had her ranked number 5 for the pound-for-pound women's in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
wow. Wow. She
yeah,
definitely earned
she's
it.
right up there.
Yeah, she definitely earned it. I mean, her last knockout was featured on the Best Women's Knockouts of 2018. I made a post recommending that she be nominated for Knockout of the Year. I don't know. My voice wasn't that loud because no one heard me, but I
I
mean,
was there
def-
live. I was there live for that knockout, and that was as hard of a shot as you hear with any fight. I
yeah,
don't care what weight she was. That was, I mean, that was a clean knockout. Like I said, you heard that shot echo throughout the entire arena.
Yeah, definitely. That was a good fight. And with being on a 5-fight win streak, her first fight was a knockout. And then she lost her fight by TKO, and she won the decision. Now she's won her last bunch of fights by TKO. But Caitlin, you definitely can't count her out. She's a finisher. She's won 3 of her fights by submission. And we really haven't seen Jordan on the ground yet, so it's really interesting to see if she does go to the ground, how she does. And I know that she's talked about her ground game before, so it'd be interesting to see how that goes.
yeah, you make some good points with that. She does train with at Spartan, but like you said, we haven't seen her jujitsu game yet. And she brought that up in the interview that I did with her that she's expecting to be able to prove her jujitsu game in this fight. So it will be interesting to see what happens. This is definitely, it deserves to be a title fight. Both women are deserving of this shot. Or of course, Jordan already is champion, but
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think this fight's going to go to a decision. Like I said, you can't count Caitlin out, but I don't think that this fight's going to go the distance. I definitely think that these girls are both finishers, and they're both coming in to finish as quick as possible. So it's definitely an exciting fight in the card, and I think it's probably a sleeper fight that a lot of people don't count girl fights in as the most exciting fights, but I think this is one that's going to steal the show.
I said this is the one that I'm most excited about,
yeah,
just because of that knockout power.
Oh,
yeah, hell yeah.
No,
All right,
knockout power at 125 pounds. At for like you said, Ryan, you referenced. Like I said, not a lot of people tend to think when they watch the women's fights to expect those knockouts. But if it's the first time you've seen Jordan fight, she can punch. And then that leads up to the next fight here. At 155 for the title, you have number 3 ranked Garrett Carlson, and he's fighting Bobby Oldenburg. And I had to look up Bobby for this fight. It wasn't a name that I initially caught, but I was impressed. I seen a 5-3 record, and you're never too sure. And then I looked at the guys he fought and the quality of opponents he fought, and he's game. He's a champion in other organizations, and I think he's a real test for Garrett at this record. Garrett's 4-0, and I'm not going to say he hasn't fought the toughest test yet, but he's been brought along accordingly. And I think this is his toughest fight yet. I think his wrestling will be good enough to carry him through for this fight. But I'm really interested to see how he can do with Bobby's pressure in this fight and the power he has in his hands.
I was gonna say, I think this is Garrett's first year fighting or wrestling at. He just got done wrestling at UW Lacrosse. He just started the team this year. Walked on as a non-wrestler up until this year from training at Ironworks. So his wrestling has improved a lot over the last few years.
Yeah,
I just got pounds with him a couple weeks ago, so
okay.
Yeah,
he's working hard.
I've competed against Garrett before jiu-jitsu competition as well, and he's definitely real game. And the first time we went, he was real green. And the last time we went against, he definitely surprised me with the leaps and bounds he made. He actually beat me the last time we competed, so kind of surprised me a little bit. It's good to see that those leap and bounds are actually starting to pay off for him. So it's good to see this fight. And I don't really know a lot about his opponent, but again, these are finishers. They both have one decision together or a piece, but they both are coming to finish the fight, and they're both not going to let it go that whole distance, I think. So I think this is another fight that's going to be guys looking for a finish. They're not going to be trying to stall and hold each other down. They're going to be trying to look for that finish.
Yeah, when you said that he walked on to his college team and made the team instead of wrestling, I'm like, without a wrestling background, that says enough right there. I mean, the guy who has that type of mentality to go out there and earn his spot on the team with no background is definitely going to do whatever he can to go out there and try to finish this fight. I definitely agree with both of you guys. This is going to be a good fight.
And then my favorite fight of the whole night so far is actually going to be the last amateur title fight, and that's number 1 ranked Felipe Martinez. He's fighting number 7 ranked Rodney Alexander, and this is a great fight because I've been hearing a lot through social media, through the grapevines, that this might be Felipe's last amateur fight, and that's what really excites me, is that he thinks that he's ready to make that next step, and to do that, he chose the toughest guy to fight. I think at the timing here, right now, if you look at the guys he could have fight, Rodney's that guy. If you look at Rodney's record, it's 3-0-1. He had in his first fight, it was a tough draw, and then from then he rattled off 3 straight wins versus tough guys. And he's brought that pressure, brought the pace, and his wrestling game is strong. And I think that brings an interesting take to this one, because Felipe is known for his wrestling. I think he's probably one of the best wrestlers at 145, obviously, that's shown, and that's in Wisconsin and Minnesota combined. So he's not only the best guy in one state, he's the best in 2. And like I said, when he said he's ready to make the pro step, I want to see that performance. I want to see him go and shine. I'm looking for a finish, and not saying that he shouldn't go pro if he doesn't get a finish, because I definitely think he's ready, but I'm looking for a performance to show those intentions, and I think this is easily fight of the night. Has the potential to be fight of the night, I should say.
I was going to say, from what I was reading, he was ranked number 1 in Wisconsin and Minnesota for 145. And then Rodney was ranked number 4, so this is a good matchup. Yeah. He looked jacked, Rodney. It was the first time I see his profile picture on there, and he looked like a scary little motherfucker.
Yeah.
Chiseled motherfucker, and quick shit. Like, I've seen him warm up in the locker room before. I'm like, he's just, the speed is there, and he has the power, plus he has the physique. If he has the personality, he's definitely going to be somebody to keep your eye on. And then Felipe, man, you said he has a wrestling background as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I would say that he would try to need to go to win the fight. But like you said, Rodney's wrestling it's not bad either. So it's like, oh man, this definitely has the potential to be fight of the night with the how close they are in the rankings and how evenly matched the styles are, So, yeah, this is definitely a highlighted fight we had to talk about.
Yeah, and for me, I think that the big thing about this fight is this is 2 athletes that are going to go out, and they're 2 guys that are both in great shape, both coming out, and no matter what, win, lose, or draw for both these guys, they're going to make a big splash in that pro debut. If Rodney loses, I think he could do 1 or 2 more amateur fights, but again, he's a guy that's going to make that pro debut soon, and they're both going to make a big splash. I definitely see them meeting again in the pro ranks at some time.
Yeah.
No, it's a great fight, and it's definitely deserving to be in the main event as far as the amateur card goes. And that brings us into the first of the 2 pro fights on the card, the co-main event on the card. Ben Ross, 1-0 as a professional. He's fighting Dino Sirocco. Interesting character, to say the least. I mean, love him or hate him, people like to watch the guy fight, whether it's to watch him win or watch him lose.
David, how do you feel about him?
Damien has something on his face.
That dude is the biggest fucking joke Minnesota's MMA has ever told. Fuck that guy. But continue, TJ. I'm sorry. Ben Ross, please whoop his ass.
No, I mean, he made a couple outlandish claims. I mean, we all heard him say he's the best wrestler in the state of Minnesota, and I appreciate confidence and self-confidence as much as the next guy. He did wrestle collegiately at St. John's, I believe, but to say that he was or is the best wrestler in the state of Minnesota, it's a strong statement, to say the least. And Ben Ross is a guy who made his pro debut quietly, but had a very strong amateur career. This is a guy who he beat a lot of very tough guys, a lot of ranked guys, including some of the best guys in the state at 170 pounds before he made that pro step. So watching him make this leap, I think Dino is a great fight for his second fight. I think it's going to be a guy that, no matter how you feel about him, he shows up. He's going to come swing gloves at your face and try to win the fight. So I think it's going to have to bring the best for Ben to win it. And ultimately, I think he does naturally. He has big power. He's a strong, athletic kid. And I think he gets a finish here for a second round.
I was just going to say, right when I was finishing up my fight camp with Ash, I got to go down to Ironworks, and I got a couple rounds with Ben too. And he hits hard. Even when he's trying to hold back for you, he was hitting hard.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I had the chance to work with him before back in the day, and I'm like, he's always grown. Every time that we had worked with each other, it's like leaps and bounds had been made, and that was towards his striking ability, I believe. And then now he's been in the interview that we did. He was telling me that he's been working on his wrestling with the wrestlers that go to the university, that these collegiate level wrestlers that he's been going with day in and day out. So when he goes against the best Minnesota wrestler in MMA, fucking, he's gonna be ready for that shit, and he's gonna shut him the fuck down and beat his fucking ass, give him the ass whooping he fucking deserves. Oh
There's
man, I can't wait for that fight
no
because, like you
bias
said,
at all. No bias.
yeah, but like what you said, whether you want to see him get his ass beat or you want to see him win, you want to see him. I do definitely want to see him get his ass beat, but I I am there to see Ben Ross get a win as well because I do like that guy, but I hate his opponent more. So.
Yeah, this is a fight I don't really know a lot about. I do know Ben just because I'm pretty good friends with a lot of guys at Ironworks, and I know that the collegiate guys they're working with, again, Garrett Carlson's over there. We have Austin there. It is a great gym, and they work hard there. And so it's going to be interesting to see Rocco try to take him down and see how the wrestling from Ben Ross actually pays off and see who actually is the better wrestler.
No, it's like I said, it's going to be a very good fight, and that leads us to last but not least, the reason we're spending money on tickets and the reason you should too. Austin Corndog Heidlich versus Kalen the Albino Rhino Hull. This is a big fight with a couple big guys. I had the pleasure of speaking with Kalen earlier this week. I do have an interview scheduled with Austin here that we're going to do as well before the fight. And I was able to get a little insight as far as what he was thinking into the fight. And this is going to be a battle of wills. You have two guys that wrestle at a collegiate level. Obviously, Kalen did get the D1 nod wrestling with Wisconsin. And, you know, on paper that should show precedence. But he also was the first one to admit that, you know, Austin is going to be the best grappler he's faced in the cage. So it's going to be a very interesting fight. I think it's going to turn down to, you know, who's able to dig deeper. And if I have to make a choice, I'm not going to. I think you should watch it and see what happens because that's what my intentions are. Like I said, this is the one that you should buy the tickets for, and this is a huge fight.
Yeah, big thing about this fight is you said there's big guys. Okay, Austin is 6 feet. He's coming in about 235 pounds. Kalen is 6'6", 245. Okay, he's a giant man, and I know he's coming in to use that weight and push Austin into the cage and hold him there, get him tired, and then beat him and finish him on the feet. That's a big thing he does in a lot of his fights. He likes to wear guys down and beat them down. But with Austin, it's the same thing. It's the same game plan, and I know he works hard. I know he's coming out here to brawl. Big thing with this fight, though, I think is with Austin, he's coming off a 2-year layoff. That's a big layoff. Ring rust. We'll see if that happens. I know he's a guy that does not believe in ring rust. He knows he's coming out and training hard. He's going to come out and kill it. Kalen, his last fight is a loss 7 months ago. So I know he's putting in the work. I know he's coming to prove that loss was a fluke. His first loss of his career, so he's coming out to prove something. And these are two guys that really have something to prove again. They're both coming off of a loss. So 2-year layoff, 7-month layoff. Let's see whose layoff paid off. And then at the end, these two big guys are going to collide.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Austin is a character. I like that dude a lot. I was able to spend some time, well, not really hanging out with him, but just around him at the jiu-jitsu tournaments and stuff like that. And at the last tournament, he won the heavyweight tournament. The singlet that he was wearing just had the American eagle or a bald eagle, the American flag, and all that stuff. And I'm like, in my head, like I just started saying the Pledge of Allegiance like when it happened. I'm like, he's a character like in other ways too. Like he's a really nice guy. Both guys are extremely humble. You know, it's hard to not like either one of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really interested in this fight. This is going to be a good one. Kalen Hull. His back is so wide and just like so fucking chiseled. It's like, how would a guy like that not have that much knockout power and be able to pick a guy up and keep him trapped? You know, like this is, and like he said in the interview, he's a true heavyweight. So Austin going against him because he's fought as low as 85.
Yeah.
This is going to be really good, a really good fight because maybe Austin ends up being a little bit faster and takes him out, I don't know, sneaks in and gets a takedown or is faster with the hands. Or
I'm hoping to see a big throw from Austin.
Yeah, or the strength advantage might be a little bit too much, but that's why it's such an interesting fight and why it makes it so hard to pick a winner, you know?
Yeah, I'm not picking. I'm not picking for this fight. I have my personal bias, but at the end of the day, this is if I was gonna put money on it, it's not one I would tell anybody to put their money on. I'd come and buy the tickets, but don't bet on the fight.
Yeah, you might as well bet on a coin toss.
Having the pleasure to speak with Kalen, like I said, I brought that question up to him. I said, coming into the fight, you got grappler versus grappler. You know, those tend to turn into kickboxing matches, and he didn't shy away from it. So, I mean, I definitely expect fireworks in this fight. I know Austin's done a lot of kickboxing matches, and he's another guy with big power in his hands, and he's not going to back down from anything. He's looking for a fight. So, like I said, be there, buy your ticket, April 27th, Onalaska, Wisconsin.
I got one more thing to add before we wrap it up. I'm also not a believer in ring rust. I had a 2-year layoff as well, and I came back and fought Brandon Jenkins for a title, and it went all 5 rounds. And I clearly won 4 of those rounds. I thought I won all 5, but I clearly won 4. And time off didn't affect at all. You know, I mean, if anything, it might have been a little bit better. You know, the time off allows you to refocus on other things outside the cage, and then when you come back, it's you know that you're ready to put everything back into it. You know, I mean, granted, I'd never left the gym, but I wasn't training like I was getting ready for fights. You know, so as soon as the mindset clicks in, ring rust is if you believe it exists, then it exists. But
I kind of touch on that too. Just kind of like taking that break from actual fights, but still being in the gym gives you time to develop your skills and actually get better without getting hurt all the time, you know, in the actual big combat situations, you know?
yeah,
So
you start to
it's
train
almost beneficial.
yourself. Yeah, you start to train to make yourself better and not to make yourself better at defending what your opponent is good at. Because say your opponent is good at striking, so you practice your evasion and takedown offense all the time, and your opponents are the same fighting style for the same 3 fights. You're focusing on the same thing for a long time, and you never adapt and change your game into bettering it for yourself. So the time off allows you to roll with your partners and see that, okay, you got me in a Kimura this time, and say, okay, how can I protect my arms a little bit better when I'm sitting inside the guard or something, you know, or just things like that, or I don't know. There's countless situations that I could name off, but that I'd just be rambling at that point.
No, definitely. And having the ability to be in the gym without a fight definitely helps everybody. Just being able to learn and just touching on what you said as far as, you know, ring rust being a thing. I think that's something that does touch every fighter individually. I mean, I can speak from experience. I know it wasn't something that mentally had a big factor on me, but I think it does just come down to, you know, a mentality thing as far as, you know, how you're able to overlook it and, you know, come into the fight. I mean, like I said, it's gonna affect some people. So when it comes to this fight, I think you have 2 strong-willed guys. Like I said, guys that wrestle at a collegiate level, and to make that level, they break you down mentally just to build you up stronger. And like I said, it's worthy of the main event. And it's like I said, when I was talking with Galen, I think this is probably the best heavyweight fight in the state in maybe the last 3 to 5 years.
For sure. And a big thing about these guys, too, with the ring rust is I know these guys have trained together before. So I think that's going to take a little bit of the nerves and that worry out because they already kind of know what to expect. They've already kind of blood, sweat, and tears with each other. So the ring rust might not affect them as much, but maybe it will one of them. But at the end of the day, I think these guys are both, like you said, mentally tough and strong-willed. And they're going to come in and they're both going for the finish. And I definitely don't see a lot of these fights tonight going to a decision. And this is one that I would bet my money is not going to go to a decision.
Yeah, and that's the best part about this sport is we can sit and speculate about it, but this Saturday night, these 2 guys are going to get locked into a cage and they're going to fist fight, and we get to see what happens.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts. So, like I was kind of mentioning earlier, just kind of to wrap it up here, Onalaska, Wisconsin, April 27th. The main event, Austin, Corndog, Heidlich, Kalen, the Albino, Rhino, Hull. Tickets are available at the door, I'm assuming. Please show up, support, and, you know, like I said, it's a great show. Anything else you guys want to say? Any sponsors you want to give a shout out to, Ryan?
Yeah, just a big shout out to our sponsor, Justin Cobalt at Precision Detailing. You can find him at Precision Detailing LLC on Facebook. And then at all of our podcasts, if you check them out, Wow, Look at Me Now. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, so go ahead and check us out.
Definitely. Damien?
Fuck Dino.
No,
Big
Jay,
Ross,
last
whoop his
words.
ass, please.
I got nothing for you guys. Ryan got it all.
I want to give a huge shout out again to, as always, Ink Shrinks Tattoo, Valhalla Combat Sports, and On Deck Management. They make the show easy for us. Boys, I had a great time breaking down these fights. Check out the fights April 27th. Be there or be square.
He doesn't need any of the smoke. Like I said, if you can't take this, inhale the smoke, don't talk about the smoke.